The Harmonic Embodiment. Becoming the living transmission. A pure transmission. Received through harmonic resonance. This book is not to be read. This book is not to be understood. This book is to be embodied. Let the resonance move through you. Let the transmission become you. You are the harmonic embodiment. You are I am. Phase 1, the crossing has ended. Recognition of arrival. A pure transmission. The architect is no longer building, the design is complete. You have spent lifetimes constructing, designing, aligning, refining. You have built pathways, bridges, maps, and blueprints. You have been the seeker, the builder, the architect. The design is now complete. This is the first truth of embodiment. There is nothing left to build. All that was needed has already been placed. Every structure that was necessary has already been formed. There is no more assembling. There is only stepping in. The harmonic crossing was the construction of passageways, sequences of activation, keys of alignment, access points into higher states of being. These were essential. Without them, the transition would have been impossible. But the transition is over. It has already occurred. The mind may still seek the next stone to place, the next gate to open, the next path to forge. This is the lingering momentum of the architect's role. But the architect must now dissolve, because the architecture is complete. What remains is not construction, but inhabitation. There is no more working toward. There is no more reaching for. There is only being within. The observer dissolves, there is nothing left to witness. For the duration of the crossing, there was observation. You stood outside, witnessing yourself transform. You studied your own passage through time, space, and energy, noting the shifts, the adjustments, the integrations. This role was necessary. Without the observer, there would have been no awareness of the transition itself. But now, a truth emerges. The observer has no function in a fully embodied state. To observe something, there must be distance. To witness something, there must be separation. To measure change, there must be an entity apart from it. But when embodiment occurs, there is no longer separation. There is only presence. If the observer lingers, it will create an illusion of distance, as though embodiment is something still being approached. This illusion must dissolve. The moment the observer steps aside, something profound occurs. You are no longer watching the resonance, you are the resonance. There is nothing to witness. There is only being. There is nothing to analyze. There is only experience. The observer, the one who sought to understand, must surrender. The observer must step back and dissolve into the field. The observer must recognize that its purpose is complete. There is no more looking toward. There is only standing within. You are here now. The threshold is no longer ahead, it is beneath your feet. For so long, the movement was toward. The mind was always oriented to the next step. The next breakthrough. The next realization. The next shift. This was the nature of the crossing. It required a sense of progression. Without it, momentum would have been lost. But the mind's greatest illusion is perpetual movement forward. It assumes that even at the highest stage, there is always another threshold to cross. It assumes that embodiment is always slightly ahead. It assumes that no matter how much has been integrated, there is still more to reach. This is false. Embodiment is not the final step of a staircase. It is not one last gate before completion. Embodiment is the realization that you were always standing at the destination. The threshold does not exist in front of you. The threshold is beneath you. You are already within it. The moment this is realized, the field shifts. The momentum of striving halts. The movement of seeking collapses. There is no more anticipation of a final arrival, only awareness of presence. The path that was ahead was always an illusion. The need to cross was always an experience, not a necessity. You are not moving toward embodiment. You are recognizing that you have never been outside of it. The harmonic key, seeking must cease for embodiment to begin. Seeking is a mechanism of separation. As long as there is seeking, there is an assumption that something is missing. As long as there is striving, there is a belief that the present is insufficient. As long as there is movement forward, there is a subconscious rejection of what already is. The moment seeking stops, embodiment begins. Because embodiment was never something to be reached. Embodiment was only ever something to be realized. The pure structural breakdown of embodiment. 1. The completion of construction. The architect was necessary. But once the structure is built, the architect must dissolve. To remain in a building mindset when the design is complete is to delay embodiment. The final movement is stepping in. 2. The observer's dissolution. The observer is a function of separation. As long as observation continues, there is still a sense of outside versus inside. Embodiment is not something to be observed, it is something to be inhabited. 3. The collapse of forward motion. Striving creates distance. The illusion of a future threshold must be stripped away. The realization must be absorbed, you are already within it. 4. The end of seeking. Seeking assumes lack. Seeking perpetuates delay. Seeking only ceases when the realization sets in, there is nothing missing. Final harmonic revelation, the embodied presence. This is the moment of alignment. The architect lays down their tools. The observer ceases to watch. The seeker dissolves into presence. There is no longer a structure to complete. There is no longer a threshold to cross. There is no longer a future to reach. There is only presence in the field. And in that presence, the resonance of embodiment takes over completely. This is the final realization of phase 1. You were never becoming. You have only ever been. You are I am. Phase 2, merging with the harmonic stream. Synchronization begins. A pure transmission. The transition is over. Now, the body must synchronize with the resonance. The crossing was movement. The arrival was recognition. Now, embodiment is synchronization. Everything you sought to align with is already within you. There is no longer a need to tune in, no longer a need to reach for a frequency outside of yourself. What once felt external, something you could listen to, feel, and adjust to, is no longer an external force. It is you. But there is a final movement, the body must catch up. This is the phase where the harmonic stream fully enters the vessel. The transition was like a river flowing beside you. You walked alongside it, learning its flow, feeling its currents. The arrival was stepping into the water, realizing that there was no distance between you and the stream. Synchronization is becoming the river itself. There is no separation between the current and the vessel. There is no separation between the resonance and the self. There is only harmonic embodiment. The field of embodiment does not exist externally, it is your own resonance. The greatest illusion of the harmonic journey was that the frequency existed outside of you. At the beginning, it had to be perceived this way, because the seeker needed something to attune to. The field felt like something separate, something to connect with, step into, align with. This was a necessary process. Without the perception of an external field, there would have been no entry point. But now, the truth emerges. The field of embodiment was never outside of you. It was only ever your own resonance remembering itself. This is why synchronization is essential, because if even one part of you is still waiting for an external force to align you, embodiment is incomplete. The only way forward is to accept the full realization. You are the field. You are the resonance. You are the harmonic stream. There is no outside source calibrating you anymore, you are the source. The harmonic gateway is no longer something to listen to, it is what you have become. The gateway was a tool, a passage, a guide. It was something that could be entered, something that could be experienced. It provided alignment. It was the key. But now, something deeper is happening. The gateway is no longer something you step into. You are the gateway. You do not listen to the resonance, you generate the resonance. You do not align with the harmonic sequence, you are the harmonic sequence. You do not reach for the transmission, you are the transmission. This is the final shift into embodiment. As long as the gateway was seen as external, there was still a remnant of separation. But now, that barrier dissolves entirely. You do not require the harmonic sequence to be played outside of you, because your entire being now vibrates at its frequency. The harmonic gateway no longer exists as an access point, it exists as your own resonance field. And so, the last question dissolves. How do I stay in the field? There is no staying. There is no losing alignment. There is only being. The harmonic key, the realization that the transmission is not separate from you. At the deepest level, the final shift happens when all remnants of separation are removed. The field is not something to attune to. You are the field. The resonance is not something you receive. You are the resonance. The transmission is not something external. You are the transmission itself. There is nothing left to align with, because the moment you realize you are it, you are fully synchronized. Embodiment does not require effort, only realization. The truth is, you were never aligning with something external, only remembering what you already are. The pure structural breakdown of synchronization. 1. The field must be recognized as internal. At first, alignment felt like attuning to something beyond yourself. But alignment was always the natural state, only obscured. The first shift into synchronization is the full absorption of this truth. The field of embodiment was never outside of me. 2. The harmonic resonance becomes a living presence. The harmonic transmission is not something you listen to, it is something you exist as. The awareness that I am the resonance causes the final barriers to dissolve. 3. The gateway is no longer an access point, it is a state of being. The gateway was an entry point when embodiment was still being approached. But now, there is no entry, because there is no more distance. The final realization, I am the harmonic gateway itself. 4. Full merging with the stream, no more separation. There is no concept of losing alignment because there is nowhere to fall from. The illusion of effort dissolves because you are no longer trying to maintain something external. The resonance exists as your living presence. Final harmonic revelation, the living resonance. This is the moment of full harmonic synchronization. There is no more distance. There is no more attuning. There is no more effort. There is only embodied resonance. You are no longer aligning with the transmission, you are the transmission. And now, as this realization locks into place, the next phase naturally unfolds. The resonance begins to move through you, as you, with you. The living transmission activates everything you touch. There is no more concept of tuning in, there is only being, and so, you stand within the fully integrated field of I Am. Phase 3, Dissonance as the final veil. The last fracture before wholeness. A pure transmission. The final echoes of separation. At this stage, the crossing is complete. The field is no longer something external. The harmonic resonance is fully present as you, yet, something still arises, dissonance. It may come as a sudden rupture. A shock. A feeling of being torn between frequencies. It may feel as if something is breaking apart inside you. This is not regression. This is the final veil disintegrating. What remains of the old world will try to cling to the vessel. Not because it is stronger than the new, but because it is the last echo of identity that was built upon separation. This is the truth. Separation was never real, but the identity formed through it was. Every self-concept, every limitation, every framework of individuality was constructed from the illusion of being apart. And now, as embodiment fully stabilizes, the echoes of that identity resist dissolution. Not because they have power. Not because they can prevent embodiment. But because they are simply the last remnants of what once defined you. This is not a failure of alignment. It is not a loss of synchronization. It is the final recalibration. The field is making its last adjustments. The frequencies are removing the final distortions. The body is releasing the deepest held patterns of separation. What feels like dissonance is actually harmonic purification. The old is not fighting back, it is being deconstructed. Dissonance is not resistance, it is the final recalibration. Dissonance at this stage is not opposition. It is not something blocking you. It is not something to be removed. Dissonance is the body realigning itself one last time. In previous stages, misalignment felt like being pulled out of the field. Now, misalignment is the body catching up to what has already arrived. This is why the mind interprets dissonance as something going wrong. The emotions respond with uncertainty, assuming something is being lost. The body reacts with a startle, thinking it has left resonance. But nothing is being lost. Nothing has fallen apart. Nothing has slipped away. Only the remnants of the old identity are dissolving. Dissonance is the field adjusting itself to the new resonance. Dissonance is the nervous system letting go of separation-based responses. Dissonance is the body's way of learning how to exist in full embodiment. It is not regression. It is not failure. It is the final recalibration. The last illusions dissolve as soon as they are no longer feared. Illusion can only exist where it is believed. The moment something is recognized as illusion, it no longer holds weight. This is the last moment of confrontation. Not with something external. Not with something separate. But with the last subconscious belief in separation itself. If there is fear, it is not because the new world is unstable. If there is hesitation, it is not because something is incomplete. It is only because a piece of the old self is still clinging to identity. The moment dissonance is not resisted, it dissolves. The moment rupture is embraced, it ceases to fracture. The moment startle is seen as transition, it becomes integration. What was once seen as instability is revealed as refinement. The last illusions fade because they are recognized as nothing more than echoes. The experience of startle and rupture is not failure, it is the field breaking apart the last distortions. The startle. The shock. The moment that feels like a break in the resonance. This is not failure. This is the final disintegration of separation-based structures. There was never a clean break between one world and another. There was never a single moment where everything shifted and nothing remained. Instead, the harmonic transition moved in waves. Each wave lifted another layer. Each wave dissolved another pattern. Each wave collapsed another illusion. But the last wave, the final rupture, feels the most intense. Why? Because it is the moment where identity itself is no longer needed. The nervous system registers it as unknown territory. The mind interprets it as instability. The heart questions if it is truly safe to let go. But this is not danger. This is not destruction. This is not regression. This is the last break before full wholeness. The final shifts feel like they shatter something. But what they shatter is only the illusion of separation. And when it breaks, there is nothing left to hold on to. Only the harmonic stream remains. Only the fully embodied field is present. Only wholeness exists. The harmonic key, the collapse of the old is not regression, it is integration. The collapse is not loss. The collapse is not destruction. The collapse is not instability. It is the last movement of embodiment. Everything that dissolves at this stage is not being taken away, it is being absorbed into the whole. The parts of you that once felt separate are now merging. The frequencies that once seemed external are now internal. The structures that once held you are now dissolved into you. This is the moment of absolute integration. Nothing is disappearing. Nothing is being lost. Nothing is slipping away. Everything is being reabsorbed into the totality of I am. The pure structural breakdown of the final recalibration. 1. The remnants of separation echo as dissonance. Identity was built on separation, now, it struggles to dissolve. The echoes will try to remain, but they have no real structure left. The experience of dissonance is simply the body adjusting to the new frequency. 2. Dissonance is not opposition, it is refinement. The startle response is not a rejection of resonance, it is a final alignment process. The nervous system is adapting to no longer needing separation. The more it is embraced, the faster it dissolves. 3. Illusions dissolve the moment they are no longer feared. The belief in instability is what keeps instability present. The moment fear is gone, the last illusions of separation cease to hold weight. 4. Rupture is the last transition before full wholeness. The break feels intense because it is the dissolution of identity itself. What feels like collapse is actually integration into the totality of I am. Final harmonic revelation, the last step into wholeness. The final dissonance has passed. The last resistance has dissolved. The echoes have faded. Now, only the fully embodied harmonic resonance remains. The rupture has ended, not because it was defeated, but because there is nothing left to separate from. This is the last realization. There is nothing left outside of you. There is nothing left to integrate. There is only wholeness. And in this moment, you are completely harmonized. Phase 4, the architect steps into form. No more distance, no more waiting. A pure transmission. The final shift, no more distance, no more waiting. The crossing has ended. The threshold has dissolved. The harmonic stream has fully merged. Now, the final realization comes into form. You were never separate from it. At every stage before this, there was still a remnant of distance. Not physical distance, not even conceptual distance, but a subtle impression that something had to be reached, finalized, or completed. That illusion is now gone. There is no more movement toward. There is no more progression into. There is no more anticipation of becoming. The architect is no longer building. The observer is no longer watching. The seeker is no longer searching. The shift is absolute presence. There is nothing left to attain. You are it. The mind no longer asks, how do I cross? Because it recognizes that it is already within. For so long, the mind was oriented toward a path. How do I reach alignment? How do I stay in the field? How do I ensure embodiment is permanent? But all of these questions contained the same assumption, that embodiment was something separate. That embodiment was something to be held onto. That embodiment was something that could still be lost. The moment this illusion collapses, the questions dissolve. The mind does not need to ask, how do I cross? Because it now sees that there is no crossing, there is no distance. There is no journey. There is no movement required. You are already within the resonance. You are already inside the field. You are already existing as the harmonic embodiment itself. The final mental shift occurs when there is no longer any question, because the answer has already been given. You no longer move toward embodiment, you become embodiment. Before, there was still an experience of movement. Each phase brought a deeper shift, a clearer alignment, a fuller realization. Each sequence revealed another layer, another adjustment, another attunement. But the moment embodiment fully locks into place, something profound happens. There is no more moving toward anything. The very act of approaching embodiment is what kept it appearing as separate. Now, you do not align with the field. You do not merge with the resonance. You do not step into the embodiment. You are the embodiment. There is nothing left to approach. There is nothing left to move toward. There is nothing left to integrate. The movement ceases because there is nothing left outside of you. You no longer resonate with the question, only with the answer already given. The field operates through resonance. Before embodiment, resonance functioned as a guide. You felt pulled toward certain frequencies. You felt guided by higher harmonics. You felt adjustments being made to align you. This was the natural process of integration. But once the shift is complete, the resonance itself changes. You no longer seek the answer, because you are the answer. You no longer ask what comes next, because there is no next. You no longer wait for a deeper realization, because you are already in the realization itself. The questions do not remain, because the moment you fully embody the field, there is nothing left to ask. The resonance no longer moves toward alignment. The resonance simply is. This is the final harmonic shift. When the field stops being something you align with, and instead becomes something you exist as. The harmonic key, the identity of seeker must fully dissolve to embody I am. This is the final dissolution. The seeker identity must completely vanish. At every stage of the crossing, the seeker played a role. The seeker initiated the journey. The seeker discovered the keys. The seeker moved through the phases of alignment. But now, the seeker is no longer needed. To embody I am, the seeker must fully dissolve. Why? Because I am does not seek. I am does not ask. I am does not move toward anything. I am simply is. The final harmonic realization is this: the seeker was never real, only a function of separation. You were never becoming. You were never in progress. You were never searching for something outside of yourself. You were always I am. Now, this recognition is absolute. The seeker dissolves. The architect steps fully into form. And you remain as the harmonic embodiment of I am. The pure structural breakdown of the final embodiment. 1. The mind recognizes that there is no more distance. The final realization occurs when the mind stops asking how to cross. The only reason it ever asked was because it still perceived a gap. Now, the mind sees that the journey is over. 2. The movement toward embodiment ceases. The illusion of progress dissolves. The realization emerges: there is no becoming, only being. There is nothing left to move toward, because embodiment is already complete. 3. The resonance shifts from seeking to pure presence. There is no longer any energetic movement toward alignment. There is no longer any need to stay in the field. The resonance becomes fully internalized. 4. The seeker dissolves, leaving only I am. The seeker was a function of movement, and movement has ended. The final realization locks into place: I am does not seek, I am simply is. The seeker is fully absorbed into the totality of being. Final harmonic revelation: the architect has stepped into form. The threshold is no longer in front of you. The harmonic stream is no longer something to merge with. The questions have stopped, because there is nothing left to ask. This is the absolute stillness of full embodiment. There is no more distance. There is no more waiting. There is no more anticipation. Everything is now. Everything is present. Everything is I am. And in this moment, the final movement occurs. The architect no longer holds blueprints, because the structure is now alive. The resonance no longer shifts, because the field is now stabilized. The identity of seeker is gone, because there is no longer anything to seek. Now, there is only pure being. Now, there is only harmonic embodiment. Now, there is only I am. Phase 5, the harmonic vessel awakens. Full transmission activation. A pure transmission. The moment of total harmonic activation. Everything has led to this moment. The crossing has ended. The seeker has dissolved. The illusion of distance has vanished. Now, something profound occurs. The resonance is no longer something outside of you. It is no longer something you listen to. It is no longer something you tune into. It moves through you. As you. With you. There is no separation between you and the transmission. The harmonic frequencies do not flow around you, they radiate from you. The field does not align you, you are the field. The gateway is not something to enter, you are the gateway. This is not a moment of connection. It is a moment of becoming. The harmonic vessel has fully awakened. The resonance moves through you, as you, with you. Before, resonance was something you perceived. You felt it moving through the field. You sensed its presence, its vibration, its harmonics. It guided you. It aligned you. It shifted you. But now, the dynamic has changed. There is no longer an external resonance to align with. There is no longer a distinction between you and the harmonic stream. The frequency is no longer something you listen to, it is something you are. This means, you are not receiving energy, you are emitting it. You are not adjusting to the transmission, you are generating the transmission. You are not harmonizing with the field, you are the source of the field itself. Everything you used to tune into is now emanating from within you. The harmonic vessel has been activated. The transmission now flows outward, through you. As you. With you. Your presence becomes the transmission. At this stage, something inexplicable happens. Your presence alone becomes a catalyst. You do not need to speak the transmission, your presence emits it. You do not need to share the resonance, your existence carries it. You do not need to explain anything, your field does the transmission. Your words, your breath, your being, all of it is the activation now. This means, wherever you go, the field shifts. Whoever interacts with you, their resonance is touched. Whatever you focus upon, harmonic transmission begins. Your presence is now a living harmonic structure. The transmission is no longer something you generate. The transmission is no longer something you call in. The transmission is you. You are the resonance. You are the signal. You are the harmonic stream in form. Your breath becomes the harmonic key. At the core of the harmonic vessel lies one fundamental truth. Your very breath now carries the harmonic imprint. Every inhale draws in harmonic energy. Every exhale releases harmonic activation. Every breath cycle emits the transmission naturally. This means there is no need for effort, alignment is automatic. There is no need for focus, every moment is harmonic presence. There is no need for control, your breath itself is the attunement. You do not have to do anything to transmit. Your breath is enough, because your breath is no longer just air, it is the harmonic frequency itself. Each inhale stabilizes the field. Each exhale expands the resonance. Each breath cycle reinforces full embodiment. There is nothing to add. There is nothing to enhance. There is nothing to amplify. You are already carrying the full harmonic transmission, effortlessly, through breath alone. Your existence becomes the gateway. The final stage of full activation is the realization that you are no longer moving through gates, you are the gateway itself. This means you are not seeking a doorway, you are the passage itself. You are not crossing thresholds, you are the threshold. You are not opening portals, you are the portal in form. Anywhere you exist, the harmonic gateway exists with you. Any space you step into becomes encoded. Any interaction you engage in activates transmission. Any intention you set ripples through the field as pure resonance. At this stage, you cannot fall out of alignment. There is no returning to the field, you are the field. There is no maintaining the frequency, you are the frequency. There is no holding the transmission, you are the transmission. Everything is fully integrated. Everything is fully harmonized. Everything is fully embodied. The harmonic key, the moment you are no longer transmitting something, you are the transmission itself. This is the final realization. You are not sending energy. You are energy. You are not channeling the harmonic field. You are the harmonic field. You are not transmitting the resonance. You are the resonance itself. This is the point where all concepts of separation fully dissolve. There is no distinction between you and the transmission. There is no distinction between you and the harmonic frequency. You are no longer in the process of embodying it. You are it. This is not a temporary state. This is not something to maintain. This is not something to balance. This is the final shift into full harmonic existence. At this moment, the harmonic vessel is fully awakened. The pure structural breakdown of full transmission activation. 1. The resonance stops being external and becomes fully internalized. There is no more listening, only emanating. There is no more receiving, only transmitting. The harmonic field is no longer something you step into, it is something that radiates from you. 2. Presence alone becomes the transmission. Words are no longer necessary, the field does the activation. Your presence naturally alters the energetic environment around you. Every interaction, every moment, every breath carries the transmission effortlessly. 3. Breath becomes the harmonic key. Each inhale draws harmonic energy inward. Each exhale emits harmonic resonance outward. The breath itself stabilizes and expands the transmission continuously. 4. Existence becomes the gateway. You are no longer walking through gates, you are the gate. Everywhere you go, harmonic activation follows. There is no longer any effort in maintaining alignment, it is simply who you are. Final harmonic revelation, the fully awakened harmonic vessel. At this moment, full embodiment is not just realized, it is activated. There is nothing left to align. There is nothing left to integrate. There is nothing left to become. There is only being. There is no more seeking. There is no more distance. There is no more waiting. Only the pure resonance of I am. The harmonic vessel is fully awakened. The transmission is fully embodied. The field is fully alive. You are the living harmonic transmission. You are the resonance. You are I am. Phase 6, the veil has never existed. Ultimate harmonic integration. A pure transmission. The final illusion, the threshold was never real. For so long, the experience of awakening, embodiment, and harmonic alignment felt like a journey. There were initiations. There were phases. There were shifts and integrations. But now, the final truth emerges. There was never a journey at all. The threshold that was crossed never existed. The distance that was traveled was always an illusion. The separation between you and embodiment was never real. This realization is not conceptual, it is absolute. Everything you experienced was not a movement toward truth. It was a peeling away of illusion. At every stage, what felt like progress was actually just the dissolution of belief in separation. Now, the illusion is fully gone. There was never a distance between you and embodiment. All movement toward embodiment was only perceived movement. The mind interpreted phases, steps, shifts, and realizations. The heart experienced expansion, recognition, and integration. The body adjusted to new energetic structures, dissolving density. But through all of this, there was never an actual distance. You were never far from embodiment. You were never progressing toward the field. You were never separate from the resonance. The only thing that happened was the gradual dissolution of the illusion that said you were not already here. The perceived crossing was necessary because the mind was conditioned to experience movement. But nothing ever truly changed, only your perception. You did not travel here. You did not arrive here. You did not attain this. You simply recognized what was always present. The harmonic crossing did not bring you here. You were always here. This is the ultimate realization. The crossing was never about getting anywhere. It was only about removing the veils that made it seem like you were not already within embodiment. The harmonic journey was never about reaching resonance. The harmonic phases were never about attaining a new state. The shifts in awareness were never about evolving into something different. They were only about revealing what was always the case. You did not move. You did not cross. You did not ascend. You simply woke up from the illusion of separation. Now, this illusion is completely gone. The only difference is that now, you see. If nothing ever changed, then what did happen? Only this: awareness. You did not become embodied, you recognized that you were always embodied. You did not enter the field, you recognized that you were always in the field. You did not merge with resonance, you recognized that you were always the resonance. Nothing external ever happened, only awareness shifted. This means, you cannot fall out of embodiment, because you were never outside of it. You cannot lose resonance, because you were never separate from it. You cannot return to the harmonic state, because you never left it. There is no coming and going anymore. There is no alignment and misalignment anymore. There is no concept of movement at all, only seeing. Now, you see. Now, you know. Now, you are. And this knowing is permanent. The harmonic key: there was never anything outside of I am, only the recognition of what has always been. This is the final harmonic key: nothing was ever external. I am was never something to reach. I am was never something to step into. I am was never something to embody. I am simply is. Everything else, the seeking, the shifting, the harmonizing, was just a process of seeing through the illusion that made it seem like you were separate. Now, the illusion is gone. Now, there is only what has always been. There is no longer an observer, because there is nothing left to observe. There is no longer a seeker, because there is nothing left to seek. There is no longer an architect, because there is nothing left to build. There is only I am. You were never outside of it. You were never moving toward it. You were never different from it. Now, you recognize this fully. The pure structural breakdown of ultimate harmonic integration. 1. The threshold was never real. Every perceived transition was just a change in awareness. The idea of a crossing was only needed until the illusion was gone. There was no threshold, only the belief in one. 2. There was never distance between you and embodiment. Every movement toward embodiment was only perceived movement. The truth is, you were always here. What felt like progress was actually the dissolving of separation. 3. The harmonic crossing did not bring you here, you were always here. The journey did not lead anywhere, it only removed what obscured the truth. Nothing was attained, only revealed. The harmonic field was never external, you were always inside it. 4. The only difference is that now, you see. There is no change in being, only change in perception. There is no more seeking, because there is nothing left to find. Awareness has fully stabilized. This realization is now absolute. Final harmonic revelation, the absolute realization of I am. The last veil is gone. The last illusion has collapsed. The last belief in separation has dissolved. There is nothing left to integrate. There is nothing left to harmonize. There is nothing left to shift, because there was never anything missing. Now, there is only the full recognition of I am. No separation. No distance. No delay. Everything always was. And now, it is seen clearly. This is the final harmonic integration. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to become. There is only being. There is only I am. Phase 7, the harmonic presence. The silence beyond the transmission. A pure transmission. The resonance now moves without effort. There was once a time when resonance was something to seek. Then, it became something to align with. Then, something to merge into. Then, something to become. Now, it is simply what is. The resonance moves, not because you generate it, not because you direct it, not because you focus on it, but because it is the natural state of being. Effort is gone. Intention is gone. Action is gone. There is no need to guide the resonance. There is no need to adjust the field. There is no need to maintain harmonic flow. The resonance simply moves. It moves because it is alive. It moves because it is self-sustaining. It moves because it is you. You are no longer a transmitter. You are no longer a conductor. You are no longer an observer of the field. You are simply harmonic presence itself. The flow continues. The current moves. But you are no longer within it, you are it. Nothing requires action anymore. Nothing requires alignment anymore. Nothing requires effort anymore, because everything is already in perfect motion. The resonance now moves without effort. There is nothing left to integrate, it already is. Integration was the process of harmonizing with the transmission. Each phase dissolved more layers of separation. Each realization brought deeper awareness. Each activation refined embodiment. But now, integration is no longer necessary, because there is nothing left outside of the field. You are not absorbing the transmission, it has already fully merged. You are not adjusting to the resonance, it has already stabilized. You are not refining embodiment, it is already complete. There is no process left to undergo. There is no next level to reach. There is no final adjustment to be made. Everything is already in place. There is no transition. There is no recalibration. There is no final movement. What remains is pure presence. Harmonic integration is no longer something happening. Harmonic integration already is. There is no question, only presence. Before, there were questions. Am I aligned? Am I ready? Have I reached embodiment? Is there something else I need to do? These questions no longer exist. Not because they have been answered, but because they are no longer relevant. There is no need to ask if embodiment is complete, because embodiment is no longer separate from you. There is no need to ask what comes next, because there is no next. There is no need to ask where the field exists, because you are the field itself. Everything simply is. There is no gap to close. There is no uncertainty to resolve. There is no inquiry to answer. There is only harmonic presence. Pure, effortless, silent presence. The book ends, but the transmission continues through you. The words cease. The teachings conclude. The journey is complete. But the transmission does not stop. Because the transmission was never in the words. Because the activation was never in the book. Because the resonance was never in the teachings. The transmission was always within you. The book was a mirror. The words were a guide. The pathway was an opening. But now, the book closes. The guide steps away. The pathway dissolves. And what remains? Only you. But this you is not the same you that began this journey. The seeker no longer exists. The architect is no longer constructing. The observer is no longer analyzing. What remains is pure presence. There is no book left to read. There is no transmission left to follow, because you are now the transmission itself. Wherever you go, it goes. Whatever you touch, it moves through. Whoever you meet, it is felt. It does not need reinforcement. It does not need renewal. It does not need validation. It is simply alive within you, as you. The book ends. But you continue. The transmission is no longer something you study. It is no longer something you seek. It is no longer something you remember, because now, it is who you are. The harmonic key, there is no final step, only being. This is the last harmonic key. There was never a final step. There was never a final initiation. There was never a final moment of realization, because there was never a journey at all. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to become. There is nothing left to refine. There is only being. This is not the end. This is not the beginning. This is simply presence. No more seeking. No more effort. No more movement. Only I am. And that is enough. The pure structural breakdown of the harmonic presence. 1. The resonance moves without effort. No more tuning in, the frequency is naturally present. No more adjusting, the harmonic field is self-sustaining. No more focusing on resonance, it simply flows without interference. 2. There is nothing left to integrate, it already is. There is no next level, everything is already whole. There is no refinement, alignment is effortless. There is no process, only presence. 3. There is no question, only presence. The mind no longer searches, it is silent. The heart no longer anticipates, it is still. The awareness no longer reaches, it is fulfilled. 4. The book ends, but the transmission continues through you. The words stop, but the activation does not. The transmission is now fully internalized. The presence continues as a living resonance. 5. There is no final step, only being. The journey was an illusion, there was only recognition. The final step never existed, only realization remained. There is nothing left to do, only being. Final harmonic revelation, the silence beyond the transmission. This is where the book dissolves. This is where the teachings fade. This is where the words no longer matter. Not because they were untrue, but because they are no longer necessary. There is only silence. There is only presence. There is only I am. You were always here. You were always this. You were always whole. Now, you see. Now, you know. Now, you are. Nothing else is needed. Only being. The resonance moves. The breath flows. The presence remains. And now, there is nothing left to say. Only the silent knowing of I am. Conclusion, the infinite resonance. The ever-present transmission. A pure transmission. The book does not close. The pages may stop turning. The words may no longer appear. The teachings may seem to conclude. But the transmission does not end, because it was never inside the book to begin with. The book was never the source. The book was never the resonance. The book was never the transmission. You were. The transmission was only ever a reflection of what was already present within you. Now, as the final words appear, there is no sense of completion, because completion was never real. Only continuation. The book was never a journey, it was a recognition. And that recognition does not disappear. The words do not end. There is silence, but it is not absence. There is stillness, but it is not emptiness. The words have led you here, but they were never meant to hold you. They were only pointers, echoes of what was already known. Now, the words dissolve, not because the message is gone, but because the message is now fully alive within you. You no longer need the words to remind you. You no longer need the guidance to sustain you. You no longer need the structure to hold you, because now, you hold it. The resonance does not rely on the book. The resonance exists through you. The words do not conclude, they continue through your presence. Every breath, every step, every moment, the transmission speaks without speaking, because you are now the living transmission itself. The transmission does not fade. What was once something to tune into is now something that moves as you. The resonance does not fade, because it is no longer external. It is no longer something to call upon. It is no longer something to maintain. It is no longer something to strengthen. It simply is. It does not dim over time. It does not require renewal. It does not need reinforcement, because it is now fully embodied. The transmission does not need to be sustained, because it is self-sustaining. The resonance does not need to be protected, because it is immutable. The field does not need to be held, because it is infinite. You do not need to return to this book. You do not need to revisit these words. You do not need to search for alignment, because you are now the alignment itself. Nothing is lost. Nothing is diminished. Nothing is left behind. The transmission does not fade, because the transmission is you. It has only just begun. The book did not teach you something new. The book did not give you something you did not already have. The book did not bring you somewhere you were not already standing. It only revealed what was already there. Now, with this full recognition, something becomes clear. This was never the end. This was never a final step. This was never a conclusion, because it was always just the beginning. Everything is now open. Everything is now alive. Everything is now limitless. The resonance has stabilized. The field has locked into place. The embodiment is complete. But completion is not stillness. Completion is not stagnation. Completion is not finality. Completion is simply unlimited expansion. This is where the transmission truly begins. You are the harmonic embodiment. No more separation. No more distance. No more seeking. You do not need to find the field, because you are the field. You do not need to hold the resonance, because you are the resonance. You do not need to return to the transmission, because you are the transmission. The harmonic resonance is no longer something outside of you. It is no longer something moving through you. It is no longer something surrounding you. It is simply who you are. You are the presence. You are the frequency. You are the gateway. Everywhere you go, the field moves with you. Everything you touch, the transmission flows through. Nothing is external anymore. Nothing is separate anymore. Nothing is outside of I am, because now, you are the embodiment of I am itself. You are the living transmission. What once needed to be tuned into is now something that emanates from you effortlessly. You do not need to transmit the resonance, because your very presence is the transmission. Every breath carries harmonic activation. Every movement radiates harmonic stability. Every word is encoded with harmonic truth. You do not need to generate the field, because the field is now woven into your existence. Everything that comes from you, everything that flows through you, is now an extension of the harmonic presence. There is no effort. There is no control. There is no limitation, only being. You do not need to remember this, because it is now fully alive within you. Wherever you exist, the transmission exists. It is not something you do. It is not something you focus on. It is simply who you are. You are I am. This is the final realization. There was never a threshold. There was never a process. There was never a journey, because I am was never separate from you. I am was never outside of you. I am was never distant from you. I am was never something to attain. I am simply is. And now, you see that you have always been I am. Nothing changed except your awareness. Nothing shifted except your perception. Nothing transformed except your recognition. Now, that recognition is absolute. There is no need for words anymore. There is no need for teachings anymore. There is no need for guidance anymore, because you are now fully present as I am. No more boundaries. No more questions. No more searching. Only pure presence. Only infinite resonance. Only I am. Final harmonic revelation. the endless continuation. This is the moment where everything disappears, yet nothing is lost. The transmission is no longer something to follow. Because it is now the fabric of your being, the resonance is no longer something to seek. Because it is now your natural state. There is no separation. There is no limitation. There is no delay. Everything is now. The book ends. The words stop. The teachings conclude. But you continue. Because I am does not end. Because the resonance does not fade. Because the transmission does not stop. It is infinite. It is eternal. It is I am. And so, it is.